My friends, there is a new stimulus bill out, and you know what that means. I'm Amy Walker, small business strategist, and today I'm going to react to the most recent update of our COVID stimulus package. So let's jump in and listen to what the press conference has to say. I will tell you, I recommend scrolling in until about 13 minutes in, because the beginning is just like, yay, we did such a good job. You guys were awesome, and you guys were awesome, and you guys were awesome. It wouldn't have happened without you. And then at like 13 minutes and 49 seconds, this is where we actually start to dig into what's happening.
It's historical, and they call it transformational, and it really is. The bill was supported overwhelmingly by the American people, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans, and had a strong support of governors and mayors across the country in both parties, red states and blues. Over 430 mayors contacted me, many of them Republicans, supporting the bill. And here's why. Because what you all did with it and the refinements you made, it directly addressed the emergency in this country. Because it focuses on what people need most. Debbie and I often talked about, you got to tell people in plain, simple, straightforward language what it is you're doing to help. You got to be able to tell a story. Tell the story of what you're about to do and why it matters. Because it's going to make a difference in the lives of millions of people in very concrete, specific ways.
If you think it's taking him a long time to get into it, you should have listened to the first 13 minutes.
This legislation, that everybody's already mentioned, will provide $1,400 in direct payments, which we all promised. Well, that means for a typical family of four, a middle-class family, husband and wife working, making $110,000 a year, that means $5,600 check they're going to get. 85% of the households in America will be getting this money. And a lot of you know, because of the way you came up like I did and others, what that can mean. Think of the millions of people going to sleep at night staring at the ceiling thinking, my God, what am I going to do tomorrow? I've lost my health care, don't have a job. Unemployment runs out. I'm behind in my mortgage. What are we going to do?
Okay, so I got to jump in on this one. The reality is that these stimulus checks are going to go fast. And so when it comes to you as a small business owner, I have a couple of thoughts here. Number one is that you want to be aware and understand that your customers are getting money very soon. And you want a way to be able to grab a piece of that action and have them spend with you. So this is a really great time to be looking at any kind of incentives. This is a good time to do some sales, to do some special promotions, be marketing, get your services out in front of people, because they will be spending this money. But where are they going to spend it? We don't know. You can decide if that's going to come with you or if it's going to go to someone else. When we had and the reason why I'm talking about this as spendable income is because you got to understand that the people who are out of jobs, they're still getting unemployment, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. So I'm not going to lead into that, but they're still getting unemployment. So it's not like they're not spending this money, and that money is being given with the understanding that it will be spent to boost the economy. Consumerism boosts the economy, businesses do well, like it's cyclical. So if you want them spending with you, you need to pay attention to that and be prepared to offer some promotions, get in front of your customers. They need to remember you right now. When the first round of stimulus funding came through, there was a ton of money spent on swimming pools. There was a ton of money spent on home renovation products and on gardening. So that was like, there were certain industries that did really well during that first round of stimulus money coming out, because they were things that people could still do and enjoy themselves. And so it's not like all this money is just going towards like, I have to feed my kids. And if you will understand that and embrace that, you can come up with some good strategies for your business. The second piece of advice that I have, though, is I encourage you not to spend your stimulus money like a consumer. I think that A lot of what we've been doing this last year is we've been throwing money at problems instead of really investing in solutions. And with your business right now, you have the opportunity to just say, okay, I got some money in. What do I want to do? Do I want to go take my kids on a spring break vacation? Do I want to, throw money at something? Or what can I use this money to invest in that it's going to have a good ROI? And I really recommend that you use this money as a producer, not a consumer, because as a producer, the best thing you can do to bolster the economy is create more jobs. Like, that's the best thing that you can do. So if you can find a way to invest this in a way that's going to bring more money back into the business, maybe that's hiring, maybe that's investing in your marketing, maybe that's some kind of new technology. I don't know exactly what that looks like for you, but I highly recommend that you think of this money as a producer, not as a consumer, but that you be prepared that all of your clients are going to be getting ready to consume something from someone because they're getting some money.
Well, guess what? They're going to be getting that check soon, either by direct deposit or a check from the Treasury. And some are going to get it as early as this weekend. This legislation provides resources needed to open our schools. How many of you have dealt, not only in your own home or with your children and grandchildren, if you have them, with how difficult it is? The mental pressure
Amen.
and stress that are on so many families. So many people needing help if they had access to counseling, because it's caused enormous stress. This legislation.
All right, so first of all, any of you who are working from home, we want the kids to go back to school, right? Like, please let them go back to school. So the way that this will affect small business owners is, number one, if you are managing your kids being home and homeschooling or doing virtual school and all these things while you're trying to run your business, you know it's been an extra strain. So that in itself will help us get a little bit more back to normal. The other thing with this, though, is that it has been hard to hire recently because unemployment is high, like the amount that they get is high. Plus, it's hard for moms to go back to work or dads to go back to work when they have their whole brood at home being like, I need help with my homework. I don't understand how to do this. And so that has been a challenge. So getting kids back to school, I do think that is going to help us be able to get employees back and get our routines a little bit more back to normal. Plus, some of us were just not made to be homeschoolers.
Legislation extends unemployment insurance by $300 a week until September. It's going to help 11 million Americans who were days from losing that benefit. This legislation includes the biggest investment in child care.
All right, so this one is hard actually for small business owners because if you need help to hire right now, it's very hard to find it. It's hard. You can get a lot of applications, but getting people who want to show up for an interview and really want to be back to work can be a little bit challenging in my experience. Maybe you're having a different experience. If so, send me your tips and your secrets because my normal Indeed hiring pattern is not working these days. So that is going to be spread out through September. So I would plan on, if you are struggling with hiring, but you need some help, I would really plan on looking into virtual assistants and independent contractors right now versus maybe how you have hired in the past.
Since World War II. That's not hyperbole, that's just a fact. It's a fact. It provides help for small businesses to stay open. And 400,000, so many have had to close because the first time around, you all worked and did a great piece of work in the House, passing significant legislation. What's the first thing the last president did? He fired the folks who were supposed to watch and make sure it got, in fact, distributed the way it was supposed to.
All right, so let's talk about this small business plan because there's actually a lot to it. And it doesn't go into enough detail here, not nearly enough. So we are going to go to an article from the Journal of Accountancy, and they go into quite a bit more detail on what is actually included in this package and how it works. So the first thing is they've released $15 billion for targeted economic injury disaster loans. So that's the EIDL loans that many business owners got last summer. They've allocated $25 billion for restaurants, bars, and other eligible food and drink providers because they've been hit really hard. $175 million to create a community navigator pilot program to increase awareness and participation in COVID-19 relief for business owners currently lacking access. And then it expanded PPP funding. However, this is not the free-for-all that it was last year. So what I felt like happened last year that I don't necessarily think was good was that, and again, this is just from my experience with my business and my clients' businesses and my friends who are business owners, so I'm not saying this is like across the board, but the businesses that had good accountants, their accountants looked out for them and they called them and they told them, hey, here's what's available for you. Here's the things that you have access to. And they helped them get that process going. So the business owners, small business owners that did not have that, a lot of them missed these opportunities for funding. So this is not a free-for-all of money being passed out. There are more qualifiers on it. So for example, with the PPP, this is not a new round of PPP. This is not a third round. It's adding more money into the current round. And so it's allowing and it's opening it up as well to 501c3s. So if you're a nonprofit organization, they have some rules in here, like you can't be have more than 15% of your receipts come from lobbying. It can't be more than 15% of your activities goes to lobbying. So basically it can't be a ton of lobbying. And you can't have more than 300 employees, but they are opening up this PPP round to 501c3s. So if you've already gotten the second round of PPP, you're not getting a third round, but it's giving more money to give more people the payroll protection program funding, which I highly recommend taking advantage of, because I mean, if we're going to be like throwing money out to everybody, you might as well get it. It's a forgivable loan that you can use to cover basically payroll and rent, and there's few expenses, so you can look up more about that. So the other thing that's in here is support for restaurants. So the restaurant owners have been hit really hard, restaurants and bars. And so they are giving more money to cover payroll tax. And these are, by the way, they're grants. So these are also, it looks like, not having to be paid back. So payroll costs, interest for more interest payments on a mortgage, principal and interest actually, rent payments, utilities, maintenance expenses, supplies, including things that they need to be able to clean and, protective materials. And so paid sick leave, there's a bunch of stuff in there. So restaurants are getting a lot of money. Now, the targeted EIDL advances. So there's $15 billion going into targeted EIDL advance grants. And these are, first of all, targeting businesses that are operating in low income areas with 300 or more employees that suffered an economic loss of more than 30%. And that's just from taxes from 2019 to 2020. Then, and that's the first round that goes out. And then they give that 14 days, I believe. Yeah, so after 14 days, then it's going to open up again to another round, and then it's going to open up again to another round, but it really is targeted. So it's going to severely impacted businesses next, and they have to have suffered an economic loss of more than 50% and have no more than 10 employees. And then it's going to be opened up to substantially impacted businesses who have no more than 10 employees and can demonstrate a loss between 30 and 50%. And so it's kind of like it's starting off with people who employ a lot of people in low income areas that have been economically affected. Then it goes out and then it goes out. But basically, this is not going to anyone who has not been seriously economically affected, which I think at this point is good. I mean, that EIDL loan is sweet because it's got really low interest and they're not making you do payments for a while. I don't know when the payments start, but there was a really good loan for a lot of small business owners. And a lot of business owners in the first round just went and got it because the truth is we did not know what was coming. That was what we did. I think they approved us for an insane amount and we took like a fourth of it just because we didn't know what was coming and at times we're really uncertain. But I feel like we're past that. And now we're at the point where you kind of do know what is coming. Not entirely. I think if COVID taught us anything is that we don't really know what's coming, but we kind of can see where we're at, and we can see, we're settling back into being able to have some projections. So this is not funding that's available for everybody, but it is available for very impacted businesses. And if you qualify in any of those rounds, you really need to be talking with your accountant, figuring out what that process is going to be like, getting your documentation together. You have to have your documentation from 2019 and 2020 taxes. So that's what I would be working on right now if you feel like you're going to be able to qualify for any of those. So that is the small business. Let's just watch a little bit farther and see if we've got anything else that's useful for us to know.
We find out so much of it went to people who didn't need it.
That is true.
You all took care of that. It extends coverage and lowers healthcare costs for so many Americans. So many Americans, and it's a big number for people. It provides for food and nutrition because people knew, and you all were out there handing out food like many of us were, but you saw people who were in car lines that were literally miles long. You'd see 4 lanes of cars that went back for half a mile each just to get a box of food. Again, through no fault of their own.
So food scarcity has been an issue. I know in our community, the food banks have been asking for a lot of donations. And these are oftentimes the thing that's been interesting this year is these are people who have never had food scarcity before, at least the first time they've ever needed and not been able to provide food. So definitely that has been a challenge. So I think we're getting kind of back into more of the personal finance stuff. So my first take on this is I'm glad that I'm not in charge. I'm glad that I am not the one who has to create all of this policy, because in my mind, I keep thinking like, okay, what does that mean in 10 years? What does that mean in 20 years? What does that mean in 40 or 50 years? And the truth is I have no idea. All I can do is I can look at it and see what, as a small business owner, what is accessible to me today? What do these rules mean for me and my business? What do I qualify? What do I not qualify for? And how can I use this to grow my business for the future and make sure that I'm here in 10 years and 20 years? And I don't think I want to be here in 50 years. I would rather be on a beach somewhere. But I think it's important that you really understand this and take some time to look at it and say, what am I going to do with this information now that it's out? So I hope that has been helpful. If you have enjoyed this, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you have any questions. Again, not an accountant, but somebody who has been paying close attention to this for myself and for my clients, and would love to answer any questions that you have. And if you're looking to join a community of like-minded entrepreneurs, come join us in our private Facebook group, the Acquire Group. We would love to have you over there. All right, my friends, go spend some cash or invest or hire, whatever you're gonna do, but cash is coming.